Hello and welcome to episode 390 of the Mark and Me podcast. As always, I'm your host Mark. Now today's episode is the third and final part of my Terrifier 3 specials, completely dedicated to the Terrifier film franchise. And so far, hopefully you've listened to the first two episodes, because today it's the cherry on the top. I'm joined by the director himself, Damien Leone. Now, as we're sitting here and you're listening to this podcast, the film is number one in America. It's knocked Joker 2 off the number one spot, which is just an incredible success story for independent film, for cinema, for horror. And it's incredible to see that all of the dedication and hard work that the team behind the Terrifier films has put in has completely paid off. And this for me is such a success story, and I'm absolutely made up for Damien. Now, I am going to get to the interview with Damien in a couple of minutes' time, but just before I do, I want to give a big shout out to the sponsor of the Mark and Me podcast. Hopefully you're a fan of horror, hopefully you're a fan of movie posters, and if you are, the sponsor is Vice Press. If you haven't been on vicepress.com, they have the best art, posters, collectibles out there. And the team, James and Matt, honestly have put in so much hard work, so much time. And if you go on there, please treat yourself to something incredible. And if you use the code MarkandMe10, you will save 10% off your first purchase. And they now are the sponsor of Mark and Me. So it's so exciting. And I can't wait to see some of you getting some incredible stuff from their amazing store. But today it's all about Terrifier. I've dedicated 3 of my episodes of Mark and Me to this franchise, and today Damien, I think, is such a great guest, and he'll leave you wanting more, and I can't wait to get him back in the near future. So I think the best thing to do right now is to get to the interview with me and Damien. So here we both are, talking all things Terrifier 3. Damien, welcome to the Mark and Me podcast.
My pleasure, buddy. Good to see you today.
You too. What I love to do with all guests that come on the podcast is take it right back to the very start. And I'm always intrigued, especially with film directors. If you remember that first film, maybe you saw at the cinema or was given to you on VHS as a kid that made you fall in love with cinema.
I do actually. And it goes very far back. Goes back to when I was about 3 or 4 years old. So I grew up like consuming VHS tapes.
Yeah.
Absolutely consuming. And oddly enough, for many years, most of them were taped off of network television. I didn't have cable till I was older. So a lot of the movies that I watched were heavily censored. But one of them was Jaws, which is still my favorite movie of all time.
Mine too.
There you go. It's the best. And my mother took me to see The Lost Boys in the movie theaters when I was 4 years old.
Wow.
And my God, did that have a profound impact on me on so many levels. And I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember the smell of the popcorn in that movie theater. I remember seeing there was the sign above the screen, above the door walking into the theater that had the Lost Boys, in lights scrolling. It was a magical experience, and just hearing how the audience responded to so many scenes in that movie with just laughter and cheers and screams. It was I wanted to be a vampire. I wanted to be a vampire when I left that theater. I was obsessed.
Yeah, I watched that, and the soundtrack and everything still holds up today. And I watched it only recently on a 4K disc, and I thought, fuck me, this still
Oh, cool.
looks like it was only made recently. Like the performances from everyone, Alex Winter, everybody. I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah, that movie just oozes charisma from
Yeah,
every on every level. There's really nothing like that. It's an impossible tone to capture. I don't know. It's lightning in a bottle,
it
that
is. I
movie.
love it, and I regularly watch it. And I think, yeah, Jaws as well. Like for me, is the perfect film. You can't fault anything about it.
No, no, you could study it forever. It's textbook perfect filmmaking on every level.
So I'm sure you get this question a lot, but obviously you went down the route of doing some shorts when you first started out, and I wondered, and I know it's hard because I'm talking to you about you, but I wondered, being yourself, did you ever, when you made Terrifier as a short, ever anticipate it to ever blow up like it did? Because I'm sure you were never prepared mentally for that kind of explosion that came with it when it went into a full length feature.
No, no, no. I did. It's impossible to see this coming. And that should never be the goal, right? I always say everything. What I'm so proud about with this franchise is that it's very organic, and we
Yeah,
never really forced anything. And it's real. It really just hit a nerve with people, and that it was so evident the first time I created the character, not necessarily to me, but in the first short film he was in called The Ninth Circle.
yeah,
Everybody who watched that, who I showed it to, they had the same reaction to that character. And it was more just on a visual level because he wasn't as fleshed out and as charming and as charismatic as he is now that David plays him. But even back then, just on a visual level, he struck a nerve with people, and people would say that clown is so cool, he's so creepy, you have to keep making more things with that character. And I got that note across the board. So I said, all right, the only logical next step is to make a short film that's based solely on this character. And now that I get a chance to really explore more, I want to turn him into a slasher because I really have a soft spot for slasher, the slasher genre.
yeah.
Those were the characters in horror that I grew up. Those were my superheroes that I grew up idolizing. So I said, I'm gonna, and I was already well into special makeup effects and gore because I was obsessed with Tom Savini. So I said, I'm gonna make him a slasher, and I'm gonna do some nasty stuff, have this character do stuff because I can. And again, that's when I made that short film. That's when I really had a light bulb moment. Now, did I still think it would end up where it is now? No, but I knew that there was something special with the character, and I had to just keep chasing him basically. And I had to stick with him, and I had to get him into a feature. And that became the next whatever for however many years of my life was trying to get him, trying to convince somebody to give me money to put him into a feature, which was virtually impossible. Nobody wanted to do it, and it just happened to be at the last kind of desperate stage. I was going to do a Kickstarter campaign, and I wound up sending it to a friend of mine who's now my business partner, him and I own this IP. And I had just worked on his first film doing special effects, and we hit it off. And I was sending this Kickstarter campaign to everybody that I knew, asking if they could help me out or if they could send it to people they know. And he called me up before I think I even published the Kickstarter. And he goes, what are you trying to do? You're trying to raise like what, 30 grand to make this feature? He goes, how the hell are you going to make a feature for 30 grand? And I said, well, I made the short film for 5 grand and that's 20 minutes long. So I say, figure, 6 short films or whatever, and you'll have a
Yeah.
feature, 80-minute feature. He goes, if you think you can do that, he goes, I'll give you the money tomorrow. He goes, don't even bother about this Kickstarter thing. He goes, I just want to hang out with you while you're making the special effects because I think that's the coolest thing ever. He goes, maybe you can teach me how to do some of that stuff. And that's how it happened. Like I didn't even have to ask him for the money. It was just a sort of serendipitous moment. And I'm so thankful that he did it and so happy that it was him that it fell into his hands because he so deserves it. It wouldn't happen without him. But it's weird the way those things really happen, man. And then looking back now, asking for 20 grand from people, I might as well have been asking for $100 million. Nobody believed in this character at all. At least anybody who had the money, didn't believe in it. So it
Being,
worked.
I'm 42 years old. I remember going to the video shops as a kid, and I'd see stuff like Freddy, Jason, even stuff like Chucky. And I fully mean this with all the respect in the world. I do believe now Art the Clown is kind of that for today's generation.
Oh, wow.
The hype and the Comic Cons that I've gone to where people are now cosplaying as Art, or people just want anything to do with him on a t-shirt or any kind of merch. I do genuinely believe it's just going to be this snowball effect that just keeps growing and growing. And the fact that we're sitting here now and Terrifier 3 isn't even out, but Terrifier 4's been greenlit.
Which
That is just I can't remember another franchise that's done that. It the pace that it's going at, it's just it must be you must be pinching yourself every day.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. And yes, pinching myself every day. We all are. David and I, if you met us today, we're as shocked and as we were 4 years ago. Like nothing has changed. Nothing, none of this ever sinks in. And we're like, can you believe this is happening? Like we literally still do that every time we see somebody, or if somebody comes up to us, they notice us on the street now, especially because if we're at a con and stuff, we'll wear the shirts and
Yeah.
stuff. So people come up and now it happens very often. And they're like, "Oh, Terrifier. I love Terrifier." And then we kind of look at each other and smile and we tell them, like where, he's
We
the
made
clown.
it. Yeah.
They lose their minds. And then when they walk away, me and him look at each other and we're like, "Can you believe this is happening?" Like, which is wonderful. That's how you want it to be, because it's truly a surreal, thrilling experience. And we don't take any of this for granted. I mean, that's one of the reasons why with each new film, we really try and give it our all and swing for the fences and try to make it something new and try to make it something better, instead of just like, all right, let's just make another movie where Art the Clown's just killing people and there's nothing really going on, which some people would actually like. I mean, there's still people who absolutely love the first Terrifier. Like,
Yeah.
that's still, and it's the most simplistic. My producer of a film, he just jokes all the time. He's like, that movie is terrible. He's like, it's got no story. He's like, he goes, you could literally have a kill scene and then cut to black. Tell the audience, go get your popcorn, go up and leave. Come back in 5 minutes when Art the Clown kills somebody else again, and like do that for the whole movie. I mean, I still love Terrifier. I think there's a lot of great stuff in it, but most people really love that movie. I wouldn't be surprised if you find out 50% of the fan base still likes that one more than part two, even though I do think part two is by far the superior film. I like part two better, but I think that's also kind of cool, and I think it's going to be the same case with part three. I think they're all so different tonally. Like part three is more like the perfect blend of one and two,
Yeah.
because I didn't want to go so much further in the direction of part two, where you start getting very fantastic and you
Yeah.
start really getting away from that gritty grindhouse tone of the original that people love. So I tried to pull that back in, but yet you're still dealing with the scope of part two and the characters, and now you're still following Sienna's journey, and this is just as much Sienna's franchise now as Art's. So now, having done that, it's become its own animal and something, sort of a tone that you've never really experienced with Terrifier before, which is exciting. I think that's what you want. I think every installment should be its own film and should feel fresh, or else what's the point of doing this? I'm not interested in just repeating the exact same thing I did before. It's stale. I need to keep it fresh.
Is it challenging knowing that each time, because the budgets are bigger, the productions are larger, the stakes are higher, you kind of need to keep pushing the bar higher? If you look at the budget from Terrifier 1 to Terrifier 2, then Terrifier 3, and now Terrifier 4, do you always feel like, oh my God, like, how am I going to outdo the last one?
All the time.
Yeah.
Sleepless nights sometimes. Because, like you said, especially three has by far the most eyes on it now. It probably has the biggest hype behind it, most
Yeah.
anticipation. So the pressure is just mounting, and you never want to disappoint people. You don't want to let them down, especially with these big kill scenes that everybody's come to expect, and everybody, that's all they ask is how you going to top. First it was how you going to top the hacksaw scene, then it's how you going to top the bedroom scene. So it's very tricky. It's very tricky. And it's tricky because it's easy to go too far.
Yeah.
I could think of the worst shit imaginable, and I could do it. But you're gonna alienate a lot of people. And I don't want to do that with this movie. I don't want to just really shock and disgust people just for the sake of shocking and disgusting them. Like, there's a way to approach these kill scenes as an artist where it's, can I just step right over the line where they're like, oh, you know what? Like, that's further than I thought I could go, but I'm still here. I'm still here for it. I didn't think I could witness something like that and still like be okay and still have fun with this movie. Like, that's sort of the challenge that I give myself. Like, I don't want the audience to walk away. I was just speaking to someone else and we were talking about a film like Martyrs, which
Yeah.
I love. It's a masterpiece. But that is just all out and out dark,
It
disturbing
fucked
movie.
me up. I was like, I understand the skinning scene and stuff, but that just stayed with me so much that it's a film I'll never revisit. I don't want that experience again. And yes, it shocked me. Yes, it was horrible, but it's uncomfortable. Like, why would I go and do that again? Like, I'm done.
Exactly. And again, I'm not in any way. I'm paying. I'm giving that movie
It's a
accolades.
masterpiece, but it's a watch
But
watch it
yeah,
once.
yeah, and more so just for the not even the gore really. It was like the content, like
Yeah.
drama. You felt so much for those characters. I mean, that's one of the reasons why it's so difficult to watch. All
Yeah.
right, you really empathize with those characters. But again, that's not the experience that I want the Terrifier audience to have. I mean, this is a lot more, poppy 80s, going back to the more just the slashers, the more with that had charm from the 80s that don't quite exist anymore, and you just had fun with them. And they didn't make you want to blow your brains out after you saw them.
I'm very conscious of time. I've got time for one more question. And what I do, I hope our paths can cross and you can come back on another day and we talk for longer because
Sure, buddy.
I feel like we've got so much to talk about. But I appreciate your time on the press tour. And what I wanted to ask was every guest that's been on this podcast, I've had Anthony Hopkins, Mads Mikkelsen, Kevin Smith, Aubrey Plaza, all different people from all different walks of life, but they've all got the same final question. And I would love for you to answer the same one, which is, tell me a song that you would love to be played at the end of this episode. Any song in the history of music that means a lot to you. I'm putting you on the spot. I know that's cruel, but as our interview's all edited and ready for the world to listen to, you get to choose a song that's now played at the end of this podcast.
Wow. I'd say Don't Fear the Reaper by Blue Oyster Cult.
What a fucking tune that is.
Yeah, yeah.
Was there a
One of
reason you believe that came to you before any other?
Maybe because I fell in love with it when I first saw Halloween as a
Yeah,
child.
perfect.
It's always
That's
been
going to
one of
make me want to go and watch Halloween now and
it's
listen to that
the
all
perfect
night.
time of year. Yeah, it's the time.
Damien,
That's
good luck with the release of the film. I know it's going to be absolutely huge. Everyone I know that loves horror is already like pre-booking tickets. Everyone's got so excited. I can't wait to see it. And I've already interviewed Phil from this that's coming out as part of a special. So I'm going to get some more cast
amazing.
members as well. So it's going to be a big celebration of the film and the franchise. So I'll keep you tagged in and celebrate and post as much as I can for you.
Thanks, brother. This was really fun, man.
Thank you. I hope our paths cross again and good luck with everything else.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
So there's my interview with me and Damien. Wow, what a great guy. Again, so humble, such a fan of horror, and deserves all the credit and success that he's getting. I truly believe he's one of the hardest working people in the business, and wow, just look at the results. You can probably hear with this interview, we click straight away, and I'm going to make it one of my biggest things now to get him back on the podcast for an extended interview because that was not long enough, but we did great with the time we were given. He's so manically busy right now. My God, his films and his name right now is everywhere across the internet, so I'm very grateful and honoured to have some time, but I need longer, and I'm going to make that happen. If you haven't seen Terrifier 3 right now, get yourself to the cinema and check it out. And also check on my socials this week because I'm going to be giving away a very cool signed exclusive bundle to celebrate the release of Terrifier 3. Also, if you've enjoyed today's episode, as always guys, if you follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, please share these episodes. Terrifier right now is one of the biggest trending films and I want more people to get on board of Mark and me. So why not just hit that share button on Twitter, Facebook or Instagram, or put it as part of your stories, or just tell one of your friends to listen. I might not think that's a huge thing to do, but it is. It goes such a long way and is better than any sponsored ad or any campaign on Twitter or Facebook that basically just take your money to spread the name. I would rather do it by people that love the podcast and then tell their friends. And if you can do that for me, I'll continue doing this podcast for free every week. Also, I do have a Patreon. It does cost money to do this podcast. I have to host it on all these different podcast networks. You won't believe it, but it's really expensive when you've got so much bandwidth and so many people listening to your episodes. It's a good problem to have, but I obviously have to keep the lights on, and I do have a Patreon for this. So if you have enjoyed today's episode or any episode of Mark and Me, you can go on there and for as little as £1 or £2 a month, you sign up via the link on markandme.com, and it's basically like giving a tip to someone in a restaurant if you've enjoyed the meal. And if you've enjoyed the podcast, I don't just say thanks, I give you a badge, I give you some stickers, I give you a monthly newsletter and exclusive episodes called The Lost Tapes, which are interviews for only people that come via Patreon and help me. It's my way of saying thank you for the support, and it really does mean a lot. And before I go, let's give another shout out to a different sponsor of the podcast, Richer Sounds. If you're in the market for a brand new TV or projector and you want to watch stuff like Terrifier on the biggest 4K screens, then hit up richersounds.com or go to any of their high street stores. They're the best people out there and they've supported Mark and me since the start. I'll be back in only a few days' time with another brand new episode of Mark and Me. It won't be Terrifier related, but I can tell you right now, you're going to be very excited. So, until then, go and see Terrifier 3, look after yourself, stay away from any dodgy looking clowns, and I'll speak to you all very soon.